Well, folks, I'm back. This time I thought I'd talk about a little about my dating life since I've been divorced. So, when I first decided to jump back into the dating pool or the dating swamp as it turned out to be, I asked my children, what's the way I should approach this? And they said, Dad, you should take a look at like some of these matchmaking apps. Match, Tinder, Bumble were all suggested by my kids. My daughter actually had one more request. She said, please make sure that she's older than us. So I took that into account while I was building my filters. So while I was actually building the matchmaking app and putting the filters in there, I realized that all of these, there's a much older app than all of these. It's called the Indian Parents app, which is apparently the first matchmaking tool that was around. Um, you know, the Indian Parent app has two search engines, the mom search engine and the dad search engine. The mom search engine apparently is completely overrides the dad search engine unless a candidate is picked that doesn't agree with the mom search engine, then it gets blamed on the dad search engine automatically. I also figured out that the mom search engine has complete permission to download and use other search engines such as the grandmother search engine, the aunt search engine, the neighbor search engine, and even the postman search engine. But I digress. Anyway, so as it turns out, the all of these apps actually start coming into full force. The mom search engine doesn't even need permission to start. It starts automatically when you get accepted to college, but it runs in the background. You don't know about it, but it's running in the background looking at potential searches in the future and candidates in the future. Once you graduate from college and get that first job, it moves to the front. It starts sending you alerts slowly at first, but as you progress in your job and you get older, the alerts become more frequent. And God forbid you reach the age of 26. At that point, the application takes over your home screen and is sending you constant updates. And by the time you get to 28, the software actually switches to ransomware at this point, where it has two requests for it to release your system. The first is you have to get married. The second is you actually have to produce a grandchild. Then only will you get rid of this app from your screen. But having said that, I decided to move on to the other apps that are there on the market right now. And the first thing I found out was after I filled in my information was that there were a lot of people that wanted to meet me. So the first date I went on was with this young lady. I said, well, why don't we meet at a restaurant? And she said, yeah, that's all right, but I think we should meet in the parking lot behind the restaurant. First red flag. I said, well, then let's go get a drink instead. She's like, we can just pick up something at the liquor store and hang out behind the restaurant in the parking lot. Second red flag. I was like, I don't think this is the best thing for us. So she said, you know why? Why don't you just give me your address and I'll come over and visit you? Since this was my first rodeo, I wasn't sure what to do, so I decided, let's give my neighbor's address and see what happens. Boy, was he surprised when she showed up with her 350-pound manager, but not as surprised as his wife and his visiting mother-in-law were. Anyway, the last I heard, the guy's on eHarmony now, so I'm assuming he's also looking for people to date. The second person I ran across, which was actually my first date, I took her out to dinner. We had a great time. And then I thought, well, why not? So I asked her back to my place. And she said, I'd love to come back to your place, but I can't. The ankle bracelet I wear won't let me go past 5 miles from this area. And I was like, wait, what happened? And she says, oh, I had a disagreement with my husband and there was a misunderstanding and everything. I said, I thought you were widowed. She says, oh, I am. Third red flag. So it's not suffice to say that I did leave that pretty fast, that date. So the next woman I met was a 45-year-old, 46-year-old woman. Said she was a medical professional. We met at a Chinese restaurant. It turned out that she was a psychologist, and between the appetizers and the entrees, she diagnosed me as being a sarcastic, narcissistic insomniac. Yeah, that date didn't last much past dessert. However, I do see her every week now because she is my therapist trying to get me out of this. And funny story, when she first told me that I was a sarcastic narcissist, um, insomniac, I said, great, that's just what I want to be known for. Basically, clicking the sarcastic off the list. The third date I had was actually based on a meetup I'd gone to. After the first two dates were so unsuccessful, I decided, you know what? Let's take a go at these meetup groups where you meet these people in person in groups. And when I got there, I approached a number of women my age in their 40s and stuff, and I asked them, what were they looking for in a man? So I'd have an idea. And she says, well, just looking for a man who's interested in women in our age. The problem we run into is the men are either significantly older than us who are on Social Security, so they're looking for someone to take care of them, or the men who are our age are actually looking for women that are like 15, 20 years younger than them. So what I should have done was say, hey, this leaves the playing field open for me at this age. What I decided to do was change my filters and see what it was like to date someone a little younger than me. So I ran across this nice young girl. She was older than my kids, and we went out to dinner, and it was great. It turns out that I'm not as narcissistic as I thought I was, because if you find a girl in her 20s, having grown up with Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that, that's true narcissism. In fact, so much so that I wanted to prove that I wasn't a narcissist, I took a picture with her and I sent it to my psychiatrist. It turns out she replied back and said, you just sent me a picture of yourself with a 20-something girl and it's 2:30 in the morning. Check off the narcissist, check off the insomniac. Anyway, the date was going fairly well. The one hiccup which gave me pause was when we started talking about some defining moments in our life, and I told her about 9/11 and how I was at work, and when it happened, I rushed home to make sure the wife was all right, the kids were doing fine, and she said, yeah, I was scared too. We all huddled in the corner with our teacher in our first grade class. Oops. I changed my filter profiles right at the restaurant back to the normal setting. The fourth and fifth dates were nurses, one in Florida, one in New York. Don't want to get into it too much. Basically, I met them because the matchmaking app looks at where you're located, and found them there. I cannot talk about them for the obvious reason that they can make anything look like an accident. So anyway, that's what I have at this moment. Thought I'd give you some background on me, and I'll keep posting more videos, and hopefully we'll see where it goes from there. Everyone, stay home, stay safe, and enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you.